This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about something that can support many physical challenges that many of us have. One in particular, knee pain. Coincidental that we're talking about this, that he brought this to the table, because I know somebody that's on an operating table at this moment getting a knee replacement. I'm not even kidding. I can't even believe you've even said that. And that can happen at many different ages too, not just somebody that's, a little bit older. Knee pain, supported by what's known as the Alexander technique. And we're going to dig into that today with our professional of the year. He's a neuromuscular and rehab specialist. Travis Chastain is back on the program. How you doing today?
Steve, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Knee pain pops up at any time in our lives, particularly, when you're in the middle of life. Many performers, whether it's music, whether it's sports, have had knee replacement surgeries. How does this technique support somebody who's having knee pain?
Great question. Well, I'll talk about the study first and foremost that we have.
Sure.
We have a great study on the Alexander technique and how it helps. So it turns out 20 Alexander technique lessons reduce chronic pain in the knees by over 56%, and it lasts over 15 months after the study. So that's really, really exciting. It's very huge. What they found, though, was that the reason that it was reducing so much pain in the knee is because it was reducing and changing how the firing of tension was going in the leg muscles. It was very cool. It was reducing the amount of tension, the amount of contraction that those leg muscles were doing, which is very interesting because we don't really talk about the knees all that much. We talk about the head, neck, and back and improving that head, neck, and back relationship. But it proves that as this improves, it improves the quality, the plasticity, the ease within the leg muscles themselves. So you're not putting all that undue strain, that undue trauma, if you will, from excessive contraction in the leg muscles, knee joints going against knee joints, ligaments going against ligaments, from all that undue strain that we carry in our whole bodies. So how we deal with that is we teach people how to move with fluidity holistically from head to heel, that nothing has to do too much. So it's very, very exciting.
We're going to get to the technique in a moment, but based on what you said, are you saying that knee pain isn't really just knee pain? There's more going on there.
Yeah, it seems that that's what the study is suggesting that, right? It's kind of proving that in a way, right? It's suggesting that how we carry the head, neck, and back relationship is going to have an impact on the knees. It's going to have an impact on our ankles. It's going to have an impact on our joints of all sorts, right? And the really exciting news about that is that whether you're using your head, neck, and back relationship in a good way or not so good way, the Alexander technique suggests that we have a control over that because our thinking is influencing that head, neck, and back. And that's a very good sign. That's a very good thing, actually. Because if our thinking is always influencing the coordination, the use of the head, neck, and back, and that's always influencing things like the knees or the ankles or the hands, and that thinking is influencing that head, neck, and back relationship, we're always thinking, we can learn how to think in a way, very simply, to gradually improve that coordination, right? You can learn how to think in a way when you're running to take the pressure off of those knees, to move with a smoothness and effortlessness that you were born to have. That's what it's about, after all, is learning how to move with fluid, effortless coordination. That's yours. It's your birthright.
If somebody has knee pain, that's and yeah, maybe it's a knee replacement that is on the horizon, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just something that somebody is feeling. Um, we talk about holding tension. You've mentioned that a
Yeah.
number of times before. Could that be what's going on there in terms of their knee, and that's why maybe it's feeling a certain way, that there's more to it than just the physical knee issue?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what the study is suggesting, is that in layman's term, that an undue stress, an undue amount of tension in the legs that is manifesting when you move, when you run, that's causing that problem in the knees. Right? And that problem of undue strain, that undue holding in the legs, is in part because of the undue strain and the undue holding that we learn to carry in the neck, in the head, and the back.
Hmm.
It's there, it's undue, it's untoward. Unfortunately, we don't tend to recognize it as such until things like the knee pain pop up. Right? But you can reverse it with one little thought at a time, which is very exciting.
So, for anybody that is not aware of what the Alexander technique is, it's changing thought patterns. And I'm focusing on the knee today.
Yeah.
It's changing the thought pattern that could be leading to that pain. So let's say, and everybody's different, every situation is different. Somebody's feeling some knee pain. Maybe they're a weekend warrior. They went jogging or played pickleball. Ah, yeah, that flared up. Hasn't hurt in, I don't know, 10 years. I'm feeling a pain there. How can reframing how they think change that?
Very great point. That's a great question, Steve. So FM Alexander, the creator of the Alexander technique, he coined two different types of thinking. He classified all thought as one or the other. Right? One way of thinking, which we all tend to fall into, always what he discovered is it always leads to an undue tightening of the neck, a pulling down on the head, and a contracting and narrowing of the whole back. Right? It happens in a chain reaction. That type of thinking he called and gaining. And gaining meaning I'm focusing on the end result that I'm wishing to attain. Right? So for example, if I'm playing a piece of music and I'm going along, everything's going well, but then I start entertaining this thought, for example. Man, everything's going so well. This is great. Man, I hope I can play the whole thing like this, right? So I get kind of fixated on getting to the end with this quality instead of just being in the moment. Right? And if I start thinking that way, what FM discovered is that anybody will inevitably start tightening on the neck. They'll trigger their fight or flight reflex, in other words. They'll get tight in the neck, they'll pull their head back and down, and they'll contract their whole spine. Right? So end gaining always leads to that physical behavior in the body. That's one way of thinking. Right? The only thing that's required is, let's say you're on a run, you're focusing on the next mile instead of being in the moment. Right? That's an example of end gaining in the
Hmm.
context of running, for example. But there's another way of thinking, as he coined it, the means whereby, where you're not concerned about the end. You're not concerned about getting things right. You're simply concerned about listening to your body in the moment, listening to how you're thinking in the moment, right? Allowing yourself to be in the moment mentally so that you're not placing undue strain on your head, neck, and back in that moment, right? Listening to how you're using your head, neck, and back in this moment right now while I'm taking that run. In this moment right now while I'm conducting that phrase of music. If I think about having some freedom in my neck, instead of thinking about getting to that next mile of the run. That's the difference between an end gaining thought, for example, getting to the next mile of the run, where a good means whereby would be, well, in this moment, how can I be easy in my neck to allow my head to be easy on top of my spine, to allow my whole back to lengthen and widen in this step of the run? Right? How can I let go of the error of I have to get it right now, as if I really know what that means, because I'm not really listening to that. I'm just focusing on get the thing done. That's what end gaining does, is it's get the thing done, regard the costs be damned. Right.
We don't talk deep about how this works because it probably would take a lot of time in terms of getting into the actual technique itself. But is it all rest on this tension that we feel, these different movements that that are unnatural, but are causing our physical issues?
Yeah, and it rests on the connection between thought and physical behavior. Right? Most of it rests on what we just talked about there, Steve.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a profound depth that we can apply, but its premises is quite simple, is that, when we think about the end in which we're trying to attain, instead of ourselves in the attempt, we get into trouble. Right? When we start listening to things that are external instead of listening to the things that are internal, then we get into trouble. Right? It's really just that simple. When we switch our attention, we get a different result in the body. When we give permission to be easy, it becomes easier. When we focus on where ease could be in the body, ease grows. And this is being backed by neuroscience these days. It's kind of funny. F.M. Alexander was a neuroscientist and he didn't even know it before the whole neuroscience was even a thing, 150 years ago.
Side note, I didn't mention that. This has been around for 150 years.
Yeah,
to me, that's very impactful that people are still talking about it today. And I've even shared with you, now that it's on my radar, I'll run into people. I'll even be doing podcasts with somebody. And what do they say? The Alexander technique. And I'm like, oh, I know about that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's helped so many people in so many ways. Like Pete Sampras, I just learned today. Did you know the great Pistol Pete?
Yes. Tennis.
Yeah.
Yes.
He loved the Alexander technique. He practiced it a bunch. He used it he used it in becoming more fluid and holistic in his serve. And my goodness, what a serve did he have.
Talk about potential knee pain. Tennis below.
Yeah, but every time he served, he was using the Alexander technique principles of freedom and holism and holistic effortlessness and fluidity in the action. Right? And when you're able to do that, not only do you get expressions of so much power in your body and the full expression of your potential, but you don't run into those jarrings of the energy, right? That happen a lot of the times, whether it be a pitcher, whether it be a server, whether it be a professional athlete, whether it be a musician. We all go through these repetitive motions, right? Over and over and over again. So it's really, really important that we think in a way that maximizes the potential. Not only that we get what we want, but we don't get physical pain over time because of a unhealthy way of thinking in the moment.
Full disclosure, not my elbow, my shoulder has hurt for like 2 years. I'm sure it came from tennis. Now, when do I play tennis? Summertime, maybe 3 times a year. I didn't play this summer. And I'm pretty sure I can feel it right there. Like when I go to the gym, I just feel it. And it's right here. And I suspect it's actually connected to something else. It's not just centralized here. And maybe that's the way a lot of this works. I did a session of physical therapy. It just was ridiculous. In my opinion, it wasn't the right place, whatever. But it's, these things that we carry, we're still walking around with pain and we're like, why are we doing that? We're unaware. we don't know what's available.
Yeah. Well, and FM had this brilliant idea because I mean the whole technique boils down to thinking and spacing. How you're thinking that affects the spacing of your body, right? There's some thinking that contracts the body, and there's some thinking that expands the body, right? And he coined this term of lengthening of the back, which is an expansion in your length, right? Widening in your back, which is an expansion in your width. As you leave your neck alone in that whole process, right? You get this kind of buoyancy, like your muscles are being gently taut, like a kite, right? And with that spacing, you move with that. You don't get joints in your shoulders, for example, when you're up there, whoa, doing the serve, you don't get those joints slamming into one another, right? Because they have the appropriate spacing, because you've conditioned an appropriate thinking. Thinking is always impacting the spacing of the body in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. But we're always thinking, so we can always move it in our direction. That's so exciting. It's so exciting that you have that control, that I have that control, right? Simply by just becoming aware, am I thinking about when I'm serving, oh man, I got to win this match? Or am I thinking while I'm serving, how can I give all that up, trust the inner flow of my body and be easy and think about the ease in my neck? Let the winds of fate take it where it must after that. When you think that way, the body can't help but behave in a very beautiful way. Right? It's just a matter of learning how to get that out of your body.
So we're thinking one way. Does this reframe the way we think?
Yeah. It's all about that. It's all about listening to how you're thinking, to re-educate how your body is moving. Listen to how you're thinking, to re-educate how your body is moving and behaving.
We're not even aware of that. That's, we take it for granted that we just move, we do what we breathe. We don't have to, think about that until you need to intentionally breathe to feel better and ground yourself. But many believe too, myself included, what you think becomes your reality. So if you're the one, had a little pain in the knee, it's going to flare up again. I got to be careful. I got to be careful. What's eventually going to happen? You're going to have knee pain again. Why not, as you're saying today, reframe it and think of it in a different way in terms of the mobility, how your knee is moving. We're talking about the knee today. It could be any part of your body.
Yeah.
And therein lies the change and the relief.
Well, yeah, and how your knee is moving in relationship to the whole rest of your head, neck, and back, Steve. See, that's the thing. Right?
Wouldn't even know where to go with that.
Yeah, I mean, when you can think of your whole body in the action, that every action you're doing, you're bringing your whole body around with it, one way or the other, right? And I don't think this is the thing that I've always appreciated about the Alexander technique is I don't think we appreciate how much thinking is always influencing our physical behavior, right? You get a stimuli to look to your right. You're curious about something to your right, your body's going to start moving there. You get curious to the left, you're going to start activating those things, right? It happens automatically. And we're using that fact to get in contact with the undue tensions that we feel in that. Listen to it and give it permission to holistically let go, to gain support, to get cavalry. Let's say that I'm holding something here. I feel myself holding something here as I turn my head this way. I feel constricted, right? Well, what about the whole rest of the cavalry and my whole head, neck, and back to support that thing?
Because we don't think of that.
We don't think of that.
We take it for granted.
Yeah.
We just do. I'm not thinking, when I described the shoulder pain, I only said that, you know what? It's probably connected to other stuff because I heard that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just be thinking that. It hasn't solved the problem. But I got to look into the Alexander technique. And it doesn't happen all the time, it just flares up. I went back to the gym a little bit more than I normally do. And I was there this morning and doing something. I was like, there it is again. And it's been quiet. And that's why it's on my radar today. But that was just this morning where it started kind of come back a little bit.
Right. Right. Yeah. Use and reuse repetitive motions, right?
Right.
Use and reuse. So we're always doing repetitive motions. Nothing wrong with that, right? But that's the great thing the Alexander technique teaches us, is that in that repetitive motion, you can get a little bit freer each and every time by just thinking a little bit differently, by being a little bit more intentional about how we're thinking. Right? Instead of, I'm going to get these 15 reps, got to get these 15 reps. No, okay. Hey, if those 15 reps are great, wouldn't it be even greater if you could do those 15 reps with effortlessness by insisting on not tightening your neck and pulling down on your head when you do that barbell? Insisting on what's not going to come into the activity. We always think about what's going to come into the activity, what we're going to do. We never think about what we're not going to bring into the activity. And that's the difference. What if we start thinking about what we don't want to bring into the activity, what we shall not bring into the activity? Then the game changes beautifully and spectacularly.
Well, do you think that goes back to the beginning of how we're wired? Because what do we think? I got to be careful because that knee is going to flare up again. And I get that. You want to be on the safer side, but that's the word. You're doing it to stay safe, but it's almost as if you're asking for it to come up again. Yeah, I'm just on guard for that knee to come up again. Instead of looking at it a different way and maybe using the Alexander technique to maybe free up some mobility, feel better, all of that.
Yeah, and perhaps even bring some curiosity instead of, I'm curious about what I'm doing that's causing this to me. I'm curious about what I'm doing to myself.
Right.
That's causing this trouble within me.
It's
amazing how quickly it goes away.
Since you started the Alexander technique a while back and you've shared your journey, how it's helped you in many ways, do you feel like you better communicate with your body?
Oh, yes.
Like you're connected?
Yes. I look back and I don't think I ever paid attention to my body. I look back at my youth, and my idea of paying attention to my body was when it wasn't behaving, hitting at it, cursing it, and telling it to get in line and get the job done.
Yeah.
Do what I tell you to do, darn it. How dare you? Never once considering, well, how am I treating it?
And it knows, and it knows everything. There's something called muscle testing. And you can ask the body something and it'll give a response, and it's not going to lie. The body.
It's amazing.
Right?
Yeah, the muscle testing is amazing. I've seen some doctors get some phenomenal results with that, with members of my own family. I'm very grateful for that.
Yep. So tell us, how do we connect with you? This is what you do. You can help people overcome certain pains, discomfort, just from the Alexander technique. Can be done virtually too. What's the best way to find you?
You can reach me at www.bodymindbalanceco.com. Or if you want to get in more direct contact, my email is bodymindbalanceco@gmail.com. Steve Harper is going to be calling me for a lesson right now.
Ever since this morning, I haven't felt this in so long. And that's why it's on my radar. And it's been years, but it goes away and then it comes back. And it's probably my body saying that, you need to look at this in a different way. Travis, always great having you on. This is just, thanks for bringing our attention to this, and looking forward next time we talk, which could be very soon.
All right, my friends. Good to see you. Have a great day.
We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.